Even though our lives change seasonally around here on the farm, every day always sort of takes on the same shape because there's always work to be done in the home. This time of year, that starts with milking the dairy cow. A lot of our day is spent inside as homemakers, and so I always really relish this first opportunity to get outside, to see the sun, to see the animals, and to put my eyes on everything outside before my direction turns inward. In the summer, we grab a cup of coffee after milking, and then we head out to the vegetable gardens. This is a family affair, and this is where so much of our provision comes from this time of year. So part of my job as a homemaker is tending to these gardens because ultimately these gardens serve our kitchen and our table. So much of my effort this time of year as a homemaker is diverted towards preserving foods. Because we can grow beautiful produce, we challenge ourselves to put it up for the winter. So every day that looks a bit different, whether it's putting up squash or storage onions or pickles, or today, Roma tomatoes. One of the things I love about gardening as a homemaker is how we get to bring the children alongside and they get to be a part of it, because a big part of my job as a homemaker is to be their teacher and to be somebody who introduces them to the world in all kinds of different ways, even when it comes down to the flavor of tomatoes. They learn a lot out here. I'd like to thank Birch Mattress for sponsoring today's homemaking-inspired video. Part of my job as a homemaker is bringing in pieces that benefit our family and are built to last. I've been enjoying sleeping on a Birch mattress for months now, and I love that it is free from polyurethane foams and fiberglass materials that can be harmful to health. Birch makes organic mattresses that are assembled in America with organic latex, New Zealand wool, American steel springs, and organic cotton. They offer a 100-night sleep trial so you can make sure you love your new mattress, and offer a 25-year warranty, flexible payment plans, financing options, and free shipping. Birch's mattresses are made with natural materials to keep you cool and have a plush cotton cover. They also offer in-home setup and removal. You can get 20% off your Birch mattress by visiting birchliving.com/Elliott Homestead. On this particular day of homemaking, we had the rare surprise of a rainstorm, which is very, very rare for us in the high desert here in the middle of Washington state. But I loved it because it gave me an excuse to stay inside and tend to those chores that kind of nag on the homemaker all the time. Part of the role that I've taken on as homemaker is to make the most of our budget. And that means making sure that I'm making wise decisions when it comes to the quality of food and how I use it up and how I make use of scraps. So today I'm actually going to make a frittata for breakfast. that's made from some leftover Sunday ham, some leftover roasted potatoes, and a few pieces of stale bread. But with a little egg and a little bit of cheese, this is going to be revived into a beautiful new meal. This is kind of part of that home economy that can be really difficult to teach homemakers who are just getting started, because homemaking is a state of mind and it's always running wild, from using up produce before it goes bad, to stretching meat from one meal to the next, to making use of leftovers. This is part of my job, and it's a piece that I really delight in. The dishes, well, those kind of come with the territory. If you've ever been a homemaker, you know that there are days that are easier than others. There are days when it feels like it just comes naturally and you have some spring in your step and the sun is shining and it just feels all fresh and beautiful. And then there are days where you have to remind yourself that everything you have, from your kitchen to your dining room table to your floors to your pillows, those are there to serve the home. And when I hold that mindset, then I can easily let go of floors that need to be swept, or dishes that break, or things that need to be tended to or cleaned because of the life that exists in this home. It makes it a lot easier when I remind myself all of this stuff, every dish, every spoon, it's here to serve. One trick that I've learned over the years as a homemaker is it can be really helpful to double recipes, because then you only make the mess one time, but you really kind of get to reap the benefits of it for multiple days, like this leftover ricotta cake that we're having alongside our frittata for breakfast. As a homemaker, I've also had to let go of this idea of keeping things picture perfect or having them set up exactly like I want in my home, and instead having to take a step back and just say, how would this be best fit to serve the family? And so, for example, having chairs around the table in my kitchen was not my first choice. I liked to use that table as more of a prep table than anything else. But I found that when the chairs were in there, the family was in there. And ultimately, isn't that what I want? To be bellied up to a table, having conversation, hanging out together. I mean, that's the good stuff. And so there's a place for keeping things nice and tidy and picture perfect. And there's a place for belling up and having real life. Now, I've broken my homemaking up into days. Monday through Friday, I assign myself a room or a specific set of chores that I tackle each day. And that keeps me from feeling like I need to clean all day, every day, because it does take a lot to keep a home like this up and functioning. From clean sheets to dusting chandeliers to cleaning toilets to washing laundry, there's a lot to do. So Mondays are my bedroom days. When we get clean sheets, vacuumed floors, a clean bathroom, I dust, I check windows, and I make sure all of our laundry is accounted for. Because of the nature of how our family functions, having 4 kids that we homeschool and working from home where we're here all the time, this breaking up of chores means that I never get the full pleasure of seeing my house all clean, all straightened, all at the same time. But instead, I've learned to settle for having a particular room cleaned on a particular day, knowing, kind of having a peace of mind that if the living room is messy, it'll be tended to on Tuesday. If the dining room needs to be mopped, it'll be mopped on Thursday. So setting a schedule that I can keep to without it becoming too overwhelming, and just learning how to rest your mind knowing you've done your daily tasks. Let it be known that the tasks of a homemaker are really unglamorous. Now, sometimes we get to put fresh flowers out on the table or bring out our fine china for the holidays, but the majority of day-to-day life as a homemaker for me is cleaning and tending to some unlovely things, whether it's clipping kids' fingernails or washing filthy sheets or getting mud chunks out of sneakers or picking up old apple cores from underneath the couches. It's just not glamorous. It can feel monotonous and it can feel thankless and it can feel just like a never-ending snowball of work. And if you feel that way right now, trust me, I know exactly what that feels like. So what I try to tell myself on these days is that the work in our home has value, and we are creating an environment that feels safe and clean and comfortable for our families, something that we feel like is glorifying, is creative, is beautiful. And I do believe that matters, and that's kind of what keeps me marching on day after day. A lot of the work of a homemaker is invisible. Things that we see in our homes that we tend to, things like rotating plants so they grow evenly, can be a small thing and maybe an unnecessary thing, but nonetheless something that goes unnoticed by most of the world. So it can feel very exciting to the homemaker when you learn how to get out a particular stain, or you learn how to clean something better, or you learn how to organize something better so that it functions well for your family. These are pieces of your home that most likely nobody will ever see. Nobody will ever say to you, "Hey, good job. That looks really great. I love the way you ironed your napkins." It's just probably not going to happen. And so homemaking becomes something, truly a posture of the heart that you have to do because you see value in it, not because the outside world is saying to you, "Hey, you're doing a great job." Because most of the time, they're just not going to see it. And yet, it still has value. I don't think any laundry day goes by for me as a homemaker where I don't give thanks for having a washer and a dryer, because every time I think, "Shay, you think this is hard? You could be down by the river having to scrub these out and wring them out by hand." And look, technology, it can be such a wonderful thing. Because these are tasks that most of us can't get away from in our daily life, even if we're living alone. Things like laundry or things like washing dishes, they just have to be done. And so one way that I've sort of worked on my mentality around these tasks is kind of working to create some beauty in those pockets so that when I go to do these tasks, it feels as glamorous and lovely as it can. Even if that means transferring my laundry soap into a pretty bottle, so be it. In order to stick to our home food budget, it requires that I make a lot of food from scratch, because these whole food items, things that we can grow in the garden or things that are just single ingredients from the grocery store, these are a lot more cost effective than a lot of pre-packaged foods. The trade-off, of course, is that you have to have the time and the space and the ability to be able to turn them into something. Even in the summertime, when it's a little bit warm outside, I still rely a lot on soups because you can use up anything that you have in your pantry. They're economical, they're nourishing, and I can have them on the table in just a few minutes at lunchtime. When I get a little discouraged about having to cook food again for a family that is hungry again, I try to remind myself that as the homemaker, part of my job is to care for these beautiful people in this home. And one of the ways that I do that is I give them as nourishing food as I possibly can. Food that is going to help build up their bodies in strength and in wellness. And that sort of encourages me to march on, because there's just not an equal to home-cooked food in the grocery store that I can offer them. So this is a way I think of paying it forward to our future selves and investing in that health later on. Now, after lunch is usually when the homemaking wheels fall off just a little bit, because the day always picks up a little bit in momentum. And sometimes that means last minute cleaning, sometimes it means running errands, sometimes it means working on the computer. Usually it means working out, so I change into some sloppy clothes and get that taken care of, but it always just gets a bit sloppy around mid-afternoon, and I've been a homemaker for long enough to know that that's okay, and that after it's all over, I can just go through, sweep through one more time, put it all right one more time, and then we'll be ready for dinner. This is something that I call blessing the house. It's not a deep cleaning, it's a quick run through where the house looks blessed and can be a blessing to other people afterwards. It's all just sort of put back and put right. Our home is far from perfect. There's a lot of dirt, a lot of grime, a lot of sin, and just real life that goes on day to day. And tomorrow we have the blessing and the challenge of doing it all over again. Homemakers, your work matters.